This isn't your average podcast. You are now listening to Sitting with Steven with your host, Steven Young.
You got me? Yeah, this is much better.
Right here is perfect.
Okay. So you have to start with like a welcome or something. Well,
yeah.
I'll let you. It's yours. So.
Yeah, well, this is my podcast. You're sitting with Steven right now. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Am I your first guest?
First guest, and also my first friend in real life too. So
I think, I have to say, I think you're I have a brother. I don't think we got along very well when I was 4 or 5, so I would say you're probably my first friend too. So it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the tea that you made for me.
Yeah,
and all the great surroundings you've created here. It's a wonderful environment. I wish everyone could see it.
We should film and have the TV version next time.
Well, I'll just give them a little flavor. There's a candle that looks like a honeycomb or something.
Beeswax. So beeswax candle gives off negative ions, which actually is... All right,
we got to talk about this stuff right now. There are so many things that you are doing here that, I'm looking at the table around me. I see 2 avocados, some kind of vitamin. It's called Curamed. Vitamin D3, about 7 grapefruit. I'll stop there, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Camu powder. What is the value in all this stuff? Like, what do you feel? Do you take huge craps or so? Like, what's the tangible thing that you're getting out of that?
It's a great question. I think, first of all, this is my podcast. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but no, I think I just want to make sure I'm doing the best I can for myself. And I feel like for the first 30 years of my life, I pretty much ate everything I'm not supposed to eat. So I just want to try to reverse some of that damage that I probably did to myself.
I understand. I was definitely at a lot of those events. I actually kind of remember in 6th grade, we had a class thing where they were like, everyone had to write down how many slices of pizza you wanted for this party. And I think me and you were excited. I'm embarrassed to admit, I think we put 4. It was like $1 a slice. And I was like, no, it's cheap. And I did it, but that's pretty bad. 4 slices at 11 or whatever.
Yeah. No, we grew up eating bad. We didn't know better, but it's a different time now, right? It's the information age, and I don't know if the information is real or fake, but I was reading that the average person now, like with your iPhone, you have access to the same information that the president had like 20 years ago.
Wow.
That was like, this is like presidential information. Now we have access to anything we want. And I think ultimately we're all going to become better because of it, as long as you...
Well, I agree, but there's a lot of misinformation too, right? A lot of people that manipulate that. So, and that's my point. When I look at all these vitamins, I have no idea, no insight. Which is why I'm a big advocate of those toilet bowls that monitor your health essentially every morning, every bowel movement, every urine. Yep.
But no.
I think that's where we need to go as a society if we're going to do the right thing here. But that's,
Yeah, I
don't like getting bullshitted. That's my issue. I think there's a lot of bullshit. This is romantic now. If I wish people could see, it's completely dark. Just the candles going. Wow.
It's actually a great podcast scene.
Yeah.
But, interesting. You don't like being bullshitted. Did you ever feel like, were you ever bullshitted? I'm just curious.
Like in my life?
Yeah, did anyone ever lie to you? Were you ever living a lie? Or...
Is that a real question?
No, it's a real question.
Yeah, listen, I can't, I was in several relationships where, definitely I felt like, I'll give you an example. Like when my first real girlfriend, I think I embarrassed to admit, I really dressed very weird. I feel like in looking back, like I wore khakis and polo shirts and stuff, like in combination. And I think she was always on me about little things like that. And I felt like I was always adjusting myself to like meet that need, like what she was looking for at that moment. And I could never be her. I was always like kind of living a lie in that way. And I realized actually it's interesting. Like she was really manipulating me a lot. Like she was telling me who I was for a long time, like telling me what I should like about myself. And I don't know if she did it consciously or not, but she's like brilliant in that way. And then I had to totally reprogram like all that stuff. And like, wait a minute, am I really like good at this? Like, I don't know. Am I, I don't know. You have to question everything. But anyway, questioning things. I don't know if it's a personal thing, if it's a Jewish thing or what. Jewish guys are always asking a lot of questions. So I realized that my dad, my grandfather. So
you're right.
Like, a lot of bull. You sure about that? Like that.
My dad's always asking me questions. I always feel like it's none of his business. Why is he asking?
They're very nosy. Like, my parents are snooping around, like fishing. I don't know. But anyway, I just tend my starting point is like you have to really overcome like a pretty high threshold for me to like think, okay, this guy actually knows something. Because I also realize how easy it is, and this is gonna sound like I'm bragging, but I think picking up new things is relatively easy. At least like the first, like the bulk of the things that people think. Like if you, like I don't know, let's say I don't play the guitar, but if someone was gonna teach me the guitar. Like probably within a month or two, I'd probably be like good enough to like play like to convince some people that I can play a guitar, but it wouldn't be like good. People who really know guitar wouldn't know. But I just realized a lot of people are just afraid to take that step. So you can kind of like you can get pretty far quick, and then to get really good, it takes a long time. But so anyway, when people kind of come to me with things like, oh, this is good for you, you got to like think, oh, like what the hell do they know? Like, did they just read that on a bullshit website, or it's probably the case.
Yeah, I think that's a great question that it's hard to answer.
Definitely. As I look here, the other thing I'm noticing on the table is the chocolate chip cookie batter from this company called Simple Mills, which I've spoken to you about. It's supposed to be really healthy. But I've tried their cupcakes, and I just can't imagine there being any health benefits there, or not being unhealthy. So, anyways, another thing. Just got a question. Like, well, how does it taste like a cupcake? Did you use there's frosting too? Like that tasted like frosting.
True, but the frosting was made out of coconut oil and I think palm oil.
Well, now I'm starting to question: is coconut oil healthy?
It's supposed to be because of the type of fat it is.
Is fat healthy?
Supposed to be.
but let's use the same logic, right? Think about all the fat people we know.
No, yeah, but
are they healthy? Like they're just made of the stuff that you just said is healthy.
You're right, but I think look, I'm not a certified personal trainer, and maybe we could get one on the show one day.
That would be great.
But, I think from what I understand is fat is the energy that your body burns, and it's a lot of the other stuff that the carbs and the sugar changes the way your body processes the fat. And
okay, so I have a really good question about this that I always wondered, because people say, okay, like having fat is kind of a negative, right, in society, right, or just in general, being fat.
Yeah.
And I think the way nature works is like nature's supposed to do the best for you possible. I think, right, in the sense that like I guess what I'm saying is, why doesn't your body just process all the fat? Like, why does it store it? I know there's genetics and stuff. This is a stupid question as I think about it, but shouldn't it just know, okay, like they ate too much fat, let's get rid of that and work for you? I guess it just doesn't. So.
It's storing up energy for your body. I think, like, you have to remember, we're still like cavemen, right? So imagine like the Lewis Koenig from 2 million years ago. When you're out looking for food or for blueberries, or
you got to store it,
you need to eat whenever. So that's why people like sugar so much, is because if you find a strawberry, your body reacts because you don't know when the next time you're going to find a strawberry. So you try to eat as much as possible.
It makes a lot of sense. I eat a lot. Like, and I just say I like to eat a lot. I think my mindset is just caveman all the time.
Well, that's the thing. We still have the same brain and the same caveman mindset. It's just that now we have Whole Foods, and we have as much food anytime as we want. ready for us, but we're still running off of the same brain that, like, the second we taste sugar, we want more and more because we're like, oh, what if we don't get it again?
No,
so it's scary. It's interesting.
It is but you know, you have to think about, I don't know, all the times that I've overeaten on sugar and ice cream and all this stuff, and I guess there's a reason behind it. And I just always, you know, people say, oh, you're depressed, you're eating a lot of sweets. Like I tend to eat, I think, when I'm like emotional eating or something, like, oh, like, let me pig out on that. But I wonder what the reason behind that is. But I guess you just got to store it up all the time.
Because you never know when you're going to find food again.
Yeah, but I think that's like the battle that we face always, though, today. Like, our caveman instincts, not just in food, but like our caveman instincts are telling us one thing, and then all these social constructs and things that society tells us are in so many ways like in opposition. So I don't know. I think that's such a big struggle, and also just for me wanting to convey how I really feel, because I think that caveman side is very real, right?
How do you really feel? Like, when do you feel that?
Oh, I mean, like if you see a woman anywhere, I mean,
just want to ravage you. No, it's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no doubt about that. Like, your brain instantly goes to ravage, like, in a second. And I don't understand why, but you know, that's just...
I understand.
But, you know, I'm glad you said that. I know a lot of guys that will never admit that they think the ravage thing. It's almost like their significant other has like handcuffs around their brain or something. But no, I tend to just like, I'm honest about it with my friends and people who I trust, and even with my girlfriend, you know, I have to tell her the truth all the time. Like, when I see something, and I'll just like let her know how my brain felt.
Yeah.
And I mean, but then there are people that you just could never acknowledge this stuff around. It's sad, but it's true.
I mean, I think that brings up an interesting question about where's that fine line? Like, when is it okay to just be that animal that we are, and when should we stop? When should we stop? Or do we ever stop?
This is a really tough question.
And when is it enough? Like, you know, I know some guys, you know, we have a friend whose dad was once single for a couple years. He was, and I think I remember you joked about like, oh, those were like probably his best years or something. But it's like, should your best years be limited to only like this 2-year window, a 3-year window, or should it be forever, or what should it be?
That's a good point. Like, I think you have to listen. I mean, there's no doubt that bringing some structure around how we, you know, treat women and men and everyone, and also how we eat and everything that we do in our everyday life, right? Like, having rules around it benefits people in a lot of ways, you know. But I think the truth is you have to tap into the things that you really feel and be honest with yourself, right? And if you can, then you can figure out ways to make it work within that society. Like, you know, people have all sorts of arrangements and relationships. I mean, I'm not one of them. I have a traditional relationship, but, you know, like, there's definitely people who do that. But also, like, you know, maybe if it's important for you or your significant other to like preserve that, then you have to figure out ways to spruce it up and do things, right? Like, whatever that means, right? Like, and part of it is not just sexual or anything. It's also just being, you know, doing exciting and new things a lot. And that's a challenge, but, you know, at the same time, like, if you embrace it, it's rewarding, I think. You know, like, even like very simple things, but if you just apply yourself to like, I'm going to do something a little different, you know, take a different walk, a different restaurant, like, all the time, I think it keeps things a lot more interesting. And, you know, and I know for me, like, you know, Nancy picks up on that stuff when things are when I'm putting that extra thought into it, you know. So anyway,
when was the last time you did something new and exciting?
So I feel like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I was like a big new exciting kick. But when I say new and exciting, it's not going to sound as new and exciting to everyone. So like it could be. I'm talking about things like that we done, like walking to Red Hook and doing a news place there randomly. In fact, this is kind of funny. We decided to do that because I said, "Oh, we never do that." And it's like a nice walk. And as we were walking, you could you could hear like a soccer stadium. It was very weird. Like, I mean, this is empty streets. You hear like crazy loud sounds and everything. And I actually was like very confused. I was looking around. I actually had this thought that like some sort of weird time warp has that, like there was a baseball stadium here like 50 years ago or something was happening, because like you could hear like you were right in the game, and I couldn't figure it out. And we sat down to dinner and we were like, whatever, we can't find it. We looked around, and I got a text from Corey, and just like I didn't speak to him all day. Corey's our friend, and he was like, hey, I'm in Red Hook, and like randomly, and I was like, oh, I'm here too. That's crazy. And he was like, you have to come to this thing. It's a once in a lifetime thing. You'll never see it.
What was it?
And it was like a cycling race. I know it sounds weird, but it doesn't sound super exciting. But actually, it was pretty cool. Like they basically took a huge lot. And did I tell you about this? No. You know about this at all? They took a huge lot and they made an obstacle course with like professional cyclists, kind of like a Tour de France. And there was like accidents and like someone got really badly hurt, I saw, which is kind of sad. But anyway, and you know, you just kind of see these guys going like amazing speeds past you and going around. There's a lot of people and there was food trucks and beer, and it was like a really nice setting. But anyway, listen, some people will say like their new exciting stuff is like they'll take a flight somewhere and go somewhere cool. Like I'd like to do all that stuff, and I hope to do it. But for me, it's like just small things to do is good. And, you know, like, and just, you know, making that effort. I don't know. So going out to a new place is like probably what I try to do most frequently, and what I've done like the last weekend. So
no, I think that's super important to break up the routine and just to make everyday life seem exciting and feel exciting. It makes me think like, I hope I do enough of that. Like maybe this podcast is something new and exciting for me, even though I don't expect it, I don't expect too much. The audience is just right now just TPTV and just friends, but it's still something new. And
yeah, I agree. And actually, like, I'm doing something similar with, like, Zach had some idea and he just wants to talk, and I said, like, oh, let's talk. Like, so try to put that stuff, like, that's outside of my relationship, but like try to put stuff like that on the schedule. Like, but I think the biggest thing, and when I'm like, I have pretty close friends and like people that I feel close to, but I do think there's something to be said for like meeting other people and like connecting with people. It is hard to find people that you connect with, but that's a really new exciting thing. Like, in fact, that's why, like, when I bumped into Nate, who was my friend for a while, I bumped into him like a couple weeks ago. It was like, like a whole fresh new relationship. I was like catching up. But it's hard to find new people when you hit a certain age. You're not going to class, but that's one of the exciting things, I think, too, that like as an individual, as yourself, like trying to actually meet like-minded people, or maybe not like-minded, I don't know, like different people. Although that's tough, like politically and all that kind of stuff you have to deal with. But I don't know, there's a lot of interesting people to meet that I think that could spruce up your life, because then you learn everything. You'll learn a whole new world, like right there, right? I don't know.
Do you ever feel like, because you're talking about new and exciting things and meeting new people, do you ever feel like your job becomes too routine, or is your job new and exciting for you each day?
And no, like, so at work, there's definitely a lot of routine and that's one of the reasons, like, I think ultimately I have to move on from there at some point. But even within the routine, there's a lot of variety, if that makes sense. So it's not like, and that's kind of like a mindset thing too. Like, I can easily say to myself, I do the same thing every day, right? And on some level you do. It's kind of like saying, like, you do the same thing. You wake up every day, you eat, but like, it's how I define what's new. So, for us, I'm meeting with new people all the time. I work on different cases within my client. I actually work at my client and at my office sometimes, so there's different teams there. I just recently, actually yesterday, I sponsored this kind of competition within my group where we basically presented like everyone in the group with this publicly available data set and said like basically predict something from it. And we tested it, and then everyone had to make presentations. So like, it's like a small thing, but again, like that was just another way to connect with different people. And then within that, I have my close friends there, but we go out to different places for lunch. I come to work at different times, so there's a lot of ways that within a somewhat monotonous day job or whatever, like you can find a lot of variety.
I feel like TPTV is going to hate this interview. Like they don't want to hear this.
Where do we want to go with that? Where do you want to go to get the audience back on board? I know exactly what Mike's saying right now. He's saying, "Oh, I love the podcast. It helped me fall asleep." Do we want to go into this stuff, or let's talk about them? I mean, like I agree. Like, listen, guys, for the audience out there, there's everything I'm saying is also a real side of me. Look, this is the person I am, but it doesn't mean I can't acknowledge all the fun shit that we talk about all day, right?
Is there what do people not know about you? Like, what would surprise us the most to find out?
That's a really good question.
I can hear Mike saying, "Oh, he cross dresses." Hey, what do we not know about Louis Koenig?
I don't know what you don't know. I'll talk a little about that. But, the truth is, I try to be an open book in a lot of ways. But obviously I'm trying to think, the way I can think about this is like, I go to therapy, right? So I go almost once a week and talk about, and like, it's like, what do I talk about, right? And a lot of things I talk about aren't different from the things I would talk about to you necessarily. So what's the word? Don't we know? I mean, listen, I have a lot of sad thing, a lot of sadness inside that, like, about different people I've lost, or like not even like to death or anything, just like in my life, like people I miss or whatever. I'm not referring to like my ex-girlfriend only or anything like that.
Who have you lost?
That's a good question. I mean, my so some of it is family members that have passed away and that kind of thing. Like I had a couple aunts that I was close with. And that's not something that, like, no one really met them, I don't think, so they don't know that. But also, I don't know, like friends that I've met along the way that, weren't necessarily within the TPTV. A lot of people at work I worked with at different, I had a different job, so I skipped jobs. So I had I had a really close mentor, and we lost touch. And then, actually, there's other friends that, like, people like Mike hate, like Jeff. Think about him sometimes. Like, he was a pretty close friend of mine. And now I feel I feel really weird if I were to reignite that. I don't even know him, So, like, that's one thing that bothers me, and obviously, like, Haley's one of those people in some ways. Like, anyone who I've known and then I feel like I don't know them anymore, you might have this experience. You're divorced. I feel a lot of, like, sadness about that sometimes. But at the same time, Nancy is really interested in me. Like, she wants me to cry more. It's a funny thing, but I mean, that's something you didn't know. But I never can cry around her. That's really hard. I have once. Maybe twice.
You're a man.
Well, that's...
Why would you cry?
That's a societal thing right there.
Yeah, you're right.
No, I mean, like it's interesting. Girls can cry really easily. I think the ones I met, they're just like, well, it's like turning on your faucet over there.
Do you cry during movies? Sad movies?
Rarely. There's a few movies, but not... I would like to. I think it's a really good feeling. That's the thing. This is weird, but a lot of times at therapy, I do feel I have to hold back tears, even when I'm not talking about something sad, which is weird. And I've never cried. Like, I actually have held together, but I've had to take breaks and pretend. I don't know if he notices. And I don't even remember what I'm talking about even. Sometimes, like, I think just the act of, like, letting your mind go a little. Okay, like you were saying, men don't cry. I think that's a bad thing. Like, I think that we all have this like inner side of us that needs to cry more. And you know, I think Nancy's right about something. Not in her approach. Like, I don't think telling someone to cry is a good thing because it makes you want to cry less because it's harder. But anyway, something about tapping into your like raw emotions, I'm really interested in. And I don't know how to do that. I think it's important.
Yeah.
So
I think that's something we're all trying to do. That's why. Yeah, I think every day I'm still trying to figure out like who I really am, and I think we all are in.
Yeah, you're right, and like
some aspect, and then
But I think if you're not, that's an interesting thing. Like, I mean, like, how long does it take to make a life? Like, it could take 100 years for you to become the person you are. Like, so if you're not at that point or you're not acknowledging it, then I think there's something off. Like, I think that's an important point. Like,
well, I think you never get there. I think on the last day that I'm alive, I'm still going to be striving to see if I can be who I'm, that better version of me that I'm always trying to be. I think it's a place that you never really get there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. But like, I think now everyone knows that, or they don't want to acknowledge that, right? Like I can think about my dad or something. Like, he seems like a really content person in who he is. And I'm not knocking him for that. Like, I think in some ways that's a really healthy thing. And he's not like a successful guy in a lot of aspects that I would measure success. Like, but he definitely is winning in some area that I don't understand. Like he is totally comfortable with who he is. Right? Like, you see the stuff he posts, right?
Yes, I can never post that.
Like,
no.
It's right. A really, like, I look at it and I'm like, it's not that I want to text him, like, what were you thinking? And I know it's a different generation, but I think even if it was the same generation, he'd be posting a lot.
He would be that guy, yeah. In a way, I think your dad, and I gotta say your brother too, I think they're more liberated than we are, and I don't know why. I've always felt gay men are just the best as far as just like...
Yeah, they're totally out there, yeah.
I guess they really accept who they are, and for some reason, guys like us are still searching.
Well, like, let's put it in perspective. Like, maybe, like, the beginning of their life, they probably were not.
Yeah, but then
they blow up once they overcome this, or they get to listen. It's a good time to be gay. Like, I think. I mean, better than the past. Every day it's better. I think. Maybe not necessarily, for everyone, but I mean, once you hit that point, and then you're like, oh, now I'm okay being this. It's good.
Now I could be myself.
But it's so. But then, like, my issue is I look at all these things and I think, like, this is like all this trivial stuff that they're posting. Like, my brother is posting about the ice cream man or whatever, or like,
that's too much. But
and my dad is posting about, like, he's just posting a picture of his face, not even smiling, and you're like, what are you doing? And
does it bother you?
So, in the sense that, like, the people that are friends that I know, friends of my dad, I think they like him enough and know him. So no, it doesn't bother. I don't think they're judging him. I think we're all kind of laughing with him, and I think, to be honest, like, I guess that's the thing, to your point about being liberated. Like, I feel happy for him that he seems happy. That's really what it meant. Like, I can tell you right now, there are people that, made hell of a lot more money than my dad, and are, like, working their ass off even today, maybe, like, as lawyers. Like, I see it at people at work or whatever. And they're, like, don't seem happy at all. They're, like, still, like, trying to, like, be in charge and fight with people about, like, petty little issues that seem so meaningless. And while my dad might miss some things, I think he's kind of onto something,
What's, what's your definition of success?
Well, I think you kind of hit on it. I think first, like, well, being happy with who you are at the moment, which seems like a constantly, like the mark is constantly moving, so that's hard. But I think knowing that, like, where you want to go more so than that you've made it there is kind of like a key. And I feel like I'm misdirected a lot. I kind of got in a couple different directions that, for whatever reason, and so I'm trying to still find that mark. But I think if I figure that out, then chasing it would be, I feel good about that because I feel like my abilities are good in a lot of things. It's just a matter of like getting to that right place.
What do you mean? Like, as far as, like, what do you mean you've been misdirected?
So, like, I went to school and I was like, it was at a time like I went to an undergraduate business program, right? And
You mean Stern?
At Stern and NYU, and with business programs especially, what they're trying to angle you for is like, where are the jobs? More so than like, who are you or anything like that. And again, like, think about it. I'm like 21 years old. I'm in debt. I'm like with all these like people that seem smart and like know something. Like my parents have no insight into like what different careers I got. Because my mom was a nurse. My dad was like worked for the post office and stuff. Like civil servants, they didn't really know that much. So I was sort of like, okay, like I'll try this. And like, I kind of focused in on some of the technology stuff within Stern. I thought that was cool. Actually, in retrospect, I was onto something in that, like a lot of technology companies kind of blew up. I just wasn't involved in them because, it's like I just like I had some like more like entrepreneurship programs or something that would have been cool. I think like I definitely would have been fascinated by all that stuff and could have done a good job.
Was NYU worth it?
No, definitely not. Well, NYU, like specifically, not necessarily. Like, listen,
is college worth it?
I think the only thing college gets you is like very basic stuff that you can learn had I just traveled abroad, like how to wash your clothes by yourself, how to go food shopping, making friends,
Wait,
dating.
You don't learn that in college. Those are the things you don't learn in college.
Making friends?
Well, I guess maybe making friends, but not like doing laundry and stuff.
I mean, I was on my own.
That's living on your own.
Living on your own is really the only thing.
Learned.
But like, I didn't have to live. You're right. For college, so NYU specifically, I didn't have to do that. But like, for me, that was like when that happened. So,
what would you say to, let's say, a 15-year-old? I guess if you're a 15 or 16-year-old, should you be preparing to go to college, or should you just be learning on your own, doing your own thing right now in today's world?
So, I mean, I mentor this kid who's like that, a little older than that, but he's like in high school, and he's not nothing like me. Like I hate to say it, but he's just like not motivated in any way, right? He just seems like a terrible candidate for college. Like his grades suck, doesn't know anything. Like he's not motivated. He's talking to me about maybe the Marines. He's like a skinny little kid. I'm like telling him, look, you could go to war. Like that's like a real thing if you want to do that. But like if that's what you want, like go for it, whatever. Like maybe you'll learn something. Maybe it will make him better. But what I tell him is, well, first of all, like the one thing I would tell a young kid is like, you don't have to like have any job or anything in your mind at all at this time. But, as far as like whether to go to college or not, like if you're getting good grades and you think that like you want to be in an environment where you're going to learn a lot of different things, not to say you can't learn them by reading all the books, because like I feel like you're a good example. Probably learn more reading now, not now today, but like in the past 5-6 years, like just finding different mentors that you follow. And I feel that way in podcasts. Like it's almost like that's like my version of going to a good like lecture that like maybe I didn't hear at some time. So yeah, I mean the one I would say, take advantage of all that stuff now while you're 15, and maybe that'll give you some indication. And also like, travel as much as possible. Maybe take like, meaning if let's say you don't have the means, but like you can get a job from the city, you can get a job at a sleepaway camp or something like that. That's like still getting out of your comfort zone and getting out of like the city and that kind of thing. And yeah, try something new like that. But I would say like you don't even have to be career focused at all. Like that's a great thing that could happen, but that takes time. That's why like those finding mentors like informally maybe people you directly know, right, that you think are cool or whatever, or like you can see yourself being like them, like trying to get in the habit, which is something I'm bad at, of like connecting with like people directly, but also, through all the resources on the web, like follow cool people that are interesting and see what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess who are you following? Like who can we who can we add to our list? Like who do you like?
Yeah, I mean like the people I like, I mean, I've talked to you about this, like my friends, specifically Mike, fall asleep to him. But I think Sam Harris is like
Mike falls asleep to Sam Harris.
He actually makes fun of it all the time. He will not listen. He has like a classic joke, a classic Vince August twist. He's like, "Oh, I love Sam Harris, for falling asleep." No, I love him. He's great, and I think he talks the truth about a lot of issues. I also like, I listen to Tim Ferriss. I listen to Joe Rogan.
Have you heard Tim Ferriss's Jamie Foxx interview?
No, but I think you talked to me about it before.
Excellent.
Should I listen to that? Okay.
It might be the best podcast I've ever heard.
That's really interesting. Like, why him? Like, what did he...
I don't know. I was surprised. It could be that I liked some of the content they talked about, but it was definitely excellent.
Was it about his movies?
It was a little of everything. It was good. You gotta listen.
Okay.
And his Arnold Schwarzenegger podcast is excellent too.
Okay. Yeah, he gets great guests. Yeah, these guys are just like, they're just speaking the truth. I mean, just like, there's so much bullshit. Like, the way people think these days is very, like, it's a lot about self-preservation and not about, like, what's the right answer to anything, and a lot, like, that's...
What's an example of that?
So, okay, like, this is more of, like, a specific example at work that you would see, but, I work with a lot of people, I would call them, like, pretty washed up, like, people that are maybe in their like mid to late 40s that, the client I work at is a bankrupt company. So they're kind of doing like, almost like they know this job will end, right? But if you ask them to do something, or if you have a task, like an interesting task, like let's say the task is you need to look through 1 million emails and find something of interest. Okay, let's just take that as like that's like a real example, but like there's two approaches you can take. One would be, okay, we're going to sit in front of a screen and look one by one at 1 million emails. Okay, that is a really inefficient way to do something like that, right? But on the flip side, that gives you a lot of job security, right? So like that's what I mean by self-preservation. Like people make decisions, like they won't think to themselves like, oh, Lewis has like a technology background. He could program something that would probably give us the top 1,000 most interesting emails based on keyword searches and various things we could do. Like,
so they're just trying to keep their job and be lazy.
And I think that you can take that principle and like look at a lot of people do that. Like how important, and this is directly like at Mike, like for example, like how important is it for like lawyers that kick people out of like apartments? Like it seems to me like all that stuff is kind of like...
Is that a job a robot can do one day? Because I heard lawyers
absolutely
start to be replaced by robots, and I guess a lot of this technology that's coming out.
But look, robots can take lawyers out of the equation very easily, actually. For one, I mean, this is an example. Like, let's take the tenant thing. The way you should approach it or think about it is, there's probably, Mike would know the answer, but there's probably like 20 reasons they can kick a tenant out. But of those 20, there's probably like 3 main ones that they encounter like all the time, right? Like 80% of the time, like 80-20 rule type of thing. Okay? That means that those 3 things can probably be really, really well defined in a system or something where you don't even have to go before a judge. The terms would be they would be like, look, they need to have $10,000 in their bank account. Oh, look, like we can pull the balance. We could see that they don't have it and they can't afford this anymore. Like, you're done. That's the way these kind of things should work. But the bottom line is you have politicians like someone like Steve Saperstein one day who are going to fight to keep this really bad system in place because they don't want to move forward because they have constituents who suck. And then this is how these things go. Like, and that's the problem. So there's a lot of ways you can slice it. I mean, look, like I'll give you another example. Let's say you want to learn something, right? You want to learn about entrepreneurship, right? You can have a class in your high school, right, taught by, let's say, Josh or whatever, like who just because he's taking on some extra work and he's a smart guy and he can figure out how to teach it. Or you can bring in like a nice screen with like a web interface to ask questions, and you're going to get Tony Robbins, James Altucher, Tim Ferriss, whoever you want. They're going to not only teach the class that way, but they're also going to, open themselves up to like answering your emails or something like that. Whatever, like some efficient way to do this. Like maybe they'll take because there's 10,000 kids across the world watching this, and then some robot will boil down because they are like 5,000 of them are asking the exact same question, right? Something like that. So now you can really ask like 2 questions to them that are really important. Anyway, I would say that like having the top guy in the world teach you something is probably a lot better and more meaningful. And then maybe just having like someone who's like a technician or something, making sure that everything's not going crazy and kids aren't having sex in the room and that kind of stuff. If it was you, you'd probably want them to have sex in the room. I hear you're...
No. No.
What's the age of consent?
Oh, in which state? Which country and which state?
Yeah, no, I know.
I only say that because I know... I think it's Steve Saperstein. I think he's the one who gets so real upset when you bring it up.
Dude, that guy has a serious attitude problem when it comes to that stuff.
It's very fun. I love it.
Yeah.
I love pushing those buttons. But no, it's interesting. Do you think... Are you ever worried about being phased out of your job?
Absolutely.
And how do we make sure you and me are not washed up when we're mid-40s? Like, what do we need to do right now?
Okay, that's a good question. As for my job, I think there's no guarantee in anything in the world, right? So is it conceivable that someone can do like high-level forensic analytics on things? Definitely. You know, like as things change, it might be really easy. And I think that in all these jobs, it's not that they're all going to go away. It's going to go from like 10 to 4 or something like that. So I don't know. I mean, from my perspective, I also think I try to be on top of my game. But anyway, that's less important. What I think is the most important thing is, for one, saving your money and like putting and investing in various things, not just like stocks, but you got to consider like real estate and alternative investments and talking to friends. Like if I had a good friend that I thought was like really smart and was like, look, I want to expand my business and I need capital. I don't want to go to the bank. Like that to me would be a great investment, you know, like if I believed in them and I thought like, let's talk, you know. So I want to look for those types of opportunities now while I have like, you know, enough. I don't have major commitments. I don't have kids or anything like that. So that's one part of it. And then as far as not being washed up, you really need to develop the best habits you can, like you're doing with health. It's not just health. It's physical, obviously, but you know, I'm trying to read more. I'm trying to, you know, like even finding these people that are interesting. Like I didn't listen to any of them a year ago, right? So I feel like, what was I doing? Like, I think I'll be honest, I was watching a lot more like crappy TV, like stuff like that. But now I feel like I would never go back. Like that to me seems kind of boring. So like, you know, if I listen to things that are interesting, peace of mind mentally. That's why I do like meditation, Wim Hof breathing stuff. That's for physical stuff.
I gotta get into that.
But also like going to therapy. Like all these things are all about my own, like keeping myself like in check, mentally, physically,
spiritually, emotionally.
Yeah. But the other thing I want to do is like, you know, I want to do more like career focused, like career stuff. Like I want to learn new languages and stuff, like programming stuff.
If you weren't at your current job, I guess, what would you be doing? Because I don't think any of our friends actually know what you do. And I don't want you to explain it here because they're already like probably bored with this podcast. But
I think they're finished.
I do want to know if you never took that job, what would you be doing?
Yeah, no, I think like for me, I would love to be doing something more creative as far as like, I don't know what that translates into necessarily. Like I can't say it's definitively like I would be making commercials or something. It could be that. It could be I would love to be writing like stories or something like that if I could do that. But that seems to me like a tough job to get, you know, like, you know, like I'm so focused on like the quantitative stuff. So like I feel like my brain is very invested in that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, so I think like anything with grass is always greener type stuff. Like I kind of more interested now in like less quantitative and more like developing thought process. Like I'm really into. That's why I'm like really into this. Like listening to philosophers. Like it's like how I view Sam. I'm really into like the news. So like maybe like reporting would be cool. Like again, like these are just like all like ideas. Like I feel like I could be invested in any of it if I just thought of it at the right time.
All right. Let me ask you, how do you, because like a lot of these philosophers, these podcasts, something I was complaining about was each episode is like 3 hours, sometimes longer. Well, how many podcasts do you listen to each week? And then how do you juggle all of that and squeeze it in each week?
Yeah. So I listen to probably like 8 hours of podcasts a week, which I don't know if that's a lot or a little. Simply put,
and it's Sam Harris and who else?
Sam and Joe Rogan mostly, because
you said Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss a little bit, but and then there's other podcasts. I listen to some economic stuff and like Freakonomics. Like so. There's some stuff like that, some storytelling. But let's put it this way: I wake up every morning at like 6:30. Okay,
what time do you go to bed?
6:15. I go to bed around. I'm trying to be in bed before 11.
So you're getting. What time do you fall asleep? How many hours of sleep?
I fall asleep within 5 minutes of going to bed, probably. So I go to bed pretty much from like 11 to 6:15 is like sleep. So
that's like 7 hours
at least. So I usually get at least that much because the only reason I wake up is because Nancy has to get up. So I'm usually just up because she's getting ready.
I'm just gonna butt in. Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. But could I hear the guy saying, "Wait, can't Nancy get up without you getting up?" Like, why does?
I just mean that her moving around wakes me up. But I don't necessarily get up. There are times when I do to make her breakfast, that kind of thing. Which is another example of like something you can do to make it a little interesting. Like I'll tell her the night before, I'm making you a smoothie, like a broccoli sprout smoothie she really likes, or whatever. Anyway, so I would say I get between 7 and 8 hours, like easily
each night. Yeah.
Each night, and so I wake up at that time, right? And then I'm starting to get ready. But when I say like. The first thing I do is actually I go to the gym. Like I go to the gym right away.
Downstairs in your building.
Right downstairs in my building. And I do that for anywhere from like 20 to 45 minutes, depending. So sometimes quicker. Okay. And then I do...
Wait, so what time are you done with the gym by?
Try to be done with the gym around 8.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So now it's 8 o'clock.
And you're listening to a podcast at the gym?
Listening to the podcast at the gym. So Nancy's gone. I'm alone, right? Okay. So I'm at the gym. I'm listening to a podcast. Now I come back upstairs. Sometimes I want to make something like to eat. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just coffee or something. I just listen to the podcast through that. And then I start my headspace. So I do the meditation for 15 minutes.
Which one are you doing right now?
And I'm on like level 3 or something.
Okay, it's still like the 10, 10, 10.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. But then after you get through level 3, it opens up to new packs.
Okay. Well, I've done other packs, but like I stay with... I'm still only on level 3. I don't know.
Okay.
But like I think I got past level 3 actually because I got to the point where I got to choose if I wanted to do 10, 15, or 20 minutes. Maybe I'm on a pack now. Actually, I don't know.
Okay.
So I do that, and then I think every other day I do the breathing thing. So that's like 3 or 4 rounds of Wim Hof.
Why do you do it?
It feels really good. That's the first reason. It feels really, really good. I don't know if you've done it.
I saw Blair do it. He did it at the Russian baths, and I was embarrassed. Kind of like, why is he making a big scene with his deep breaths? But
listen, it's possible he was doing it wrong. I don't know. Like, I could see that too. But you get like this very euphoric feeling, and I really like that. And I also like that there's like a tangible. You can see. Okay, look, I can hold my breath for this long, and then I do it the next round. I can do it for longer. And you get up to like 2-3 minutes, and it's like, okay, wow, that like was a really interesting experience.
Isn't that scary? Like, aren't you scared of passing out?
Dude, I can always just breathe when I want. Like, I know the point where I'm like, oh, I gotta breathe. So that's when I breathe, right?
See, I hit that point after about 10 seconds.
There's no way. You just haven't done it. I think you should try it again. We'll do it later. But actually do it on an empty stomach. So that's that. And then so now I'm at the point where it's already like 8:45, let's say. Okay. And then I take a cold shower, so that's part of the Wim Hof thing.
How long is that? That's like 30 seconds?
It's like 2 minutes, but like
2 minutes in
the shower.
How cold?
So what I usually do is I start like medium, like almost warm, but not hot. And then I ease it to the like as cold as possible, which gets very cold.
As you're under the water.
As I'm under the water, and then I finish like, I just finish on like as cold as possible, and I'm usually yelling and everything. And it's fun.
Dude, I think you would love the Russian baths because they have this ice pool, and it's pretty fun jumping in there.
Why is he trying to get you to the Russian baths?
But Blair, like, no, it's sensational. Trust me.
Oh god. So okay, now consider where I'm at. Like now I've showered. Now I got to get clothes and all this for work.
It's like 9 a.m.
This is past 9 already.
So you're late for work. Doesn't work start at 9?
No. That's what I'm explaining. My work is very flexible. I usually get to work between 10:30 and 11. So now I don't even know how that time frame, like, just picture everything gets all like, you know, like 20, 30 minutes in between. Like, and actually there's always like so what usually happens is I check Facebook, I start to read an article, I go down a path. I also have to deal with a lot of text messages. This is like when TPTB is very hot, you know, like SAP is all up on shit. I usually get a call from SAP. That's like a 10-minute thing, usually when I'm taking a shit.
Wow.
So, like, okay, all that stuff. So now I'm at work at 10:30, 11. But I'm feeling really good because I feel like I also clean my apartment. Like, I make sure there's no dishes in my I make the bed, make sure there's no dishes. I clean off the coffee table. Like, so all that stuff's just important because, like, I know Nancy appreciates it and I appreciate coming home and not having to, like, organize everything. So that's important also. So... And no one said anything to me at work in like 2.5 years. So like if they said something to me, I might be like, oh. But now I feel like I need that time because like there's no other way I can live without doing all these steps. Otherwise, I'd come to work and be like groggy or whatever. So I come to work feeling pretty good, and then I usually have lunch at like 12:30. So like I literally do like. But what that makes me realize is like I can be really focused in that time because I know like I have to finish something before lunch. And again, like this is all flexible. Like if I had a meeting or a deadline, I would adjust. So it's not like I'm not being irresponsible. It's all just like I know what I need to do. I make sure I do it, and you know, within that, I build in a lot of time for myself and you know, people that I enjoy being in the presence of, and then. You know, my day goes pretty quick because then, like, you know, by 6, no one's really even there. So I get to do whatever I want. Like, I can work from home. Anyway, then my night starts, and my nights usually either go to the gym with Nancy or play basketball or hang out with someone. So
that's great.
So that's
actually a pretty good routine that I didn't know about you. Like, really? There's so many days when it's like 9 a.m. and I'm texting Blair, I can't believe Lou likes at work right now. Who knew you were really at the gym?
Oh, no. I mean, like, even when I'm at work.
No, I think that sounds...
It's a lot, like, listen.
Wait, but I have to ask. So wait, who do you sit next to at work?
So I sit next to Patty.
Alright, so Patty, I know you're friends with him, but doesn't Patty get annoyed that you're coming in 2 hours late every day?
This is the great thing about him. Like, he like loves that I do all this stuff. Like, the first thing he asks, like, when I first started all this stuff, he was like, oh, like, so what did you do today? Like, and then, like, and he, like, laughs his ass off. He's like, he thinks it's really funny that, like, and he thinks it's amazing that, like, someone, like, does all this stupid shit, but he thinks it's good. Like, he's, like, taught me a lot about, like, how important it is to be healthy, even though he doesn't practice any of it.
Yeah.
But he recognizes it.
I feel like you're the employer who has, in a way, like, chosen himself, like you prioritize yourself over the job. Yeah, but then it makes you an even better employer because you're employee. Yeah. Sorry, because you're focusing on yourself and you're like taking care of yourself. Then you're taking care of work.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I make sure that like it's like anything. Like if you make sure your work gets done, and I don't slack on my work. And the truth is, and this is kind of my point about efficiencies, like I really like I know my value in terms of like I know I'm worth like 20 people. The way the mindset is with most people. Yeah. And like, you know, it's silly, but like everyone's like, oh, do your magic and all. It's like, what magic? Like, I'm just like, why would anyone do it the other way? Like why would you, you know, I don't know. There's just so many bad things people do that I don't want to get into that now.
No, I am curious just a little bit about how your brain works because ever since I've known you, you've pretty much aced every class, every exam. I think even at NYU, you finished like really high.
3.9 or something, 3.96 or something, yeah.
And then it was like almost top of the class. It was like right there.
Yeah.
Are you smarter than most people? Like, what is it?
That's a really interesting thing. I don't think I'm smarter than most people at all, actually. I think I have an edge in some things. Like, I think I have high emotional intelligence. That has nothing to do with what your question, but I'll go into it. Like, as far as like understanding what people... like how people are reacting to things and like how I need to adjust to different people, that kind of thing. But like to the point of like, okay, like I know how to get, like, I think like you have to understand the game you're playing, right? Like, so every class, every teacher, every subject is going to have like a different rule. So like, I know, like, just let's really break it down. Like, I know in math class, every test is going to be based on like 5 types of problems that you can work through, and you just have to figure out how to do. And if I can't figure it out, that's where I need to invest time into like asking a teacher and that kind of thing. And so like everything kind of applies like kind of similarly. Like, you know the basic rules to the game. You know, like English, I have to read a book. I have to break it down a certain way. Maybe I'm going to have to go through notes and discussions, and like, that's like history. I have to memorize certain things. There's some dates. Anyway, this is like just from a test taking perspective. Like, just like, what are the types? This is like the same thing I talk about with like at Mike's job. I imagine there's like 3 major things he has to work on. Like, focus on, you know, making sure you know how to do those things really well, and the things you don't know like enough to like get by. And I think that's just from a test taking perspective. That's how I think about it. But every subject has the same principle. Like, you want to learn about something, there's probably like a few things you need to know. That goes back to like my guitar example that I don't play, but I think like that's the way I think, right? Like, okay, pick up a guitar, you have to learn some of the chords, some of the notes. How do you read the music? And now you have to practice like it. And then like knowing, am I doing as well as someone should be doing who's been doing this for 2 weeks versus someone anyway. So like I said, like, you could take that with sports. Like, you just got to know the principles, the rules, and like figure out how you are at them and be honest with yourself, and then work on what you need to. So
I guess when you talk about emotional intelligence, how can we get better at that? Like, what's the key to knowing how to respond to people and being, I guess, emotionally intelligent?
Okay, so, I mean, I don't know where you think you stand on that, but I would say, like, what my advice is a couple things, like, well, one big thing is, like, recognizing people's body language, for one. So, I mean, like,
there's no scientific proof, though, that body language means anything.
I mean, I bet there's a ton of scientific proof about that, but, you know, we can talk about that. I don't know, like we can look that up. Then maybe it's debatable. But I would say, like, as far as, you know, knowing what interests people and what doesn't, right? Like, so you don't want to talk, like, I wouldn't talk to my dad about the same thing. Maybe I would talk to some of the same things I would talk to you about, but not everything. And I wouldn't talk to, and I wouldn't react the same. Like, some people, I feel like they want a really honest response at every time, and I think it's appropriate. And other times, like, you want to, like, really observe that, like, and respect their feelings in some ways and figure out a better way. So, I don't know. I mean, like it takes time to know how people are. A lot of it is very subtle. That's why I say body language. Like, when you walk into a room, you know, you have to, I would say I'm a judgmental person, for good and better or for worse. Like, and I'm listening to words people are using, things that make them laugh, things that don't make them laugh that I would expect to make them laugh. Like, oh, I guess they didn't like that joke. Like, they're probably a serious Christian or something, you know? Yeah. And like, once you know that, you just have to, I haven't thought too much about this. I just get that sense because I can navigate a lot of different personalities. Like, I can talk to people that I know people have difficulty with, and I can work through that somewhat. I mean, there's always some people that I can't apply that to, but then there's people, you know, like that you just have to adjust to, and I don't know if that's a good thing. I think to some degree, being who you are always the same is probably, I don't know if that's not being emotionally intelligent or being who you are. There's some weird balance there.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, like, so when I think about as I think about how I've defined emotional intelligence, it's almost like knowing how to be a chameleon to people or something. But you're not always yourself. Like, I'm not being true to myself if I'm monitoring myself. But maybe I am. You know, maybe my ability to monitor is also part of me. So I think this is actually the most interesting topic we touched on. It's possible. I mean, like I don't know, like where would you rank people in our group in emotional intelligence? Do you have a thought on that? Like, we haven't defined it. Maybe we should, but
I think Josh is very emotionally intelligent.
yeah, no, Josh is a very
I think he
intelligent
is.
guy, and I think he has a good emotional intelligence. I agree.
I think the thing is with our group is I think we're all a lot better than we show each other. Like, I think
We have the worst sides of each other in so many ways.
like it just.
Does text just promote bad behavior? Is it texting or is it everything?
I think
is it a dynamic?
I think it's our friendship that. I don't know. It's almost like, at least not for you, but for me, some of it's like a broken friendship. Like, I'm not really friends with Steve Saperstein, and but we're still like forced to talk to each other all the time. And then like
I feel that way about Steve too. Actually,
no, but Steve.
No, I love Steve, but yeah, I do kind of think there's some weird like. It's always an act and always putting on like a certain like silliness, and I would like. Listen, maybe this political stuff will straighten him out a little.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what that means, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. I just mean in the sense like he might have to become more mature and less involved in like because think about your time, like your time when you become more important in a public space, you have to be like how much time can you spend bullshitting on text? Like if you think about it,
Is he the biggest texter? No.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
not without a doubt. Like,
Okay.
and I imagine he has like 10 more threads like this. He has other TPTBs. That's what I think people don't realize.
Yeah, right. I went to his birthday. I didn't know. Like, if you go to my birthday, I have no friends. It's you guys. I went to his birthday. It's like a whole crew of people.
Dude, and they were horrendous as people. They were like the most scummy, like trashy types of people I could ever met. Like,
see. But, okay, to be fair to Steve, why does he take so much heat from us? Like, why are we bashing Steve Saperstein? Because why? Like,
No, I mean,
do we feel resentment towards him, or?
That's a really good question. I think on the one hand, he brings a lot of it on himself in the sense that he plays a lot of games with us. Like, he's constantly baiting you and this type of, and like, acting outraged and then turning it and then laughing about it and making fun but then being nice. Like he's kind of like a head case in that way. But as far as like are we like I mean he also in a respectable way is doing something that like none of us would do. I mean I think it's an interesting like running for office is like wow like that's impressive whether you win or lose. Like putting himself out there is like I would never want to do that, and I mean, you could say you respect it, or I just think it's strange. I don't know. Do I resent it? No, I mean, I want him to get what he wants. I don't know if he will, but I want him to get there. I just I just think he makes it too easy. Like I think what one good thing about him is he doesn't take this stuff too seriously. So you can bash him and be really honest and brutally honest about how all of his inconsistencies, and there's a lot, as far as his beliefs and things he does and says and his friends, and like you can just go at him and he really won't be that angry with you, which I respect that.
Yeah, I do like that about our friend group. I feel like we can really cut into each other in an ugly way, but then like we're still friends. So.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I think
But I do sometimes. I think like, are we all like not like I don't know, is it schizophrenic, or something? But it's like, how is it normal to like text one thing and then text someone else the opposite? Is that intentional, or are we all just absolutely nuts?
It's kind of like in a movie or a comedy or a sketch or something. There's a pattern, right? And we know the pattern. The pattern is you tell someone one thing, you tell the other guy the other thing, and we all play into it. And I think that's, it's like a stupid habit, but it's the way we've developed as a friendship. But like, yeah, to your point, would it be better if we were some really supportive group and said, hey, let's take all of our great skills and what we bring to the table and let's make a business, let's produce something, let's volunteer somewhere, like whatever it is, like that would be great. But like that just does not seem like it's on the horizon, which is weird because, I feel like these are great people that I care deeply about, but no one seems to be I would love to be the guy that makes that happen. I just don't know how to do it. To connect that.
Yeah, well, it's not too late. Or if you think about our timeline of life, we're actually still, we're still young. Like a lot of people, like weird example, he popped into my head, but like Bryan Cranston or something, he didn't really get his big break until he was like 50, and we're not 50 yet. So you never know. Our big moments might still be coming, and.
I mean, like you said, like you can be every day of your life can be chasing a big moment and you don't know when that could happen. So it's not really, I mean, this is where like the meditation stuff helps me in a lot of ways because you can't agonize over what you haven't done. And like all these thoughts that pop in your head, you have to be like able to identify them as like useless.
Separate your thoughts from
and say
your
like,
mind.
what can I do? Yeah. What can I do now? Like, and where should I be? And most of the time the idea is just to turn it off because the good stuff happens when you least expect it.
All right, I'm thinking we should wrap this up.
So, yeah, I think so.
Right. But let me just end it on maybe if there were like three things, if you can say three things, or there's like three things that people can remember you by, what would it be? What would you want to be known for?
Wow. I hate lists, but I mean I'll do my best. I think we touched on a lot of the stuff actually. So like one that I questioned things sufficiently to the point where having a discussion with me wasn't as blah, like easy going because I could think through the basics of, like I said, like a lot of the stuff that people take for granted and just say, okay. Like I think when you press harder and you think about it, you learn a lot more, like, and you start to question, well, maybe my beliefs are different. So anyway, like, the questioning thing is really important for me. Like, so, like, being inquisitive enough.
Can I rephrase the question?
Sure, go ahead.
Instead of putting the focus on you, maybe, like, if you can leave, like, 3 pieces of advice for, like, someone to open up one day, what would it be?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So like one thing is, I guess like don't lose, one thing I think about, and I don't do enough of it, but I think I should be more proactive, is like, don't lose sight of like people that care about you. Like I take my parents for granted, I think, and a lot of like my friends and stuff, like the fact that we joke around and play stupid, I think like, it's important that you have that. So that's one thing, like always like remember, like, cause I do have this like scary thought that like one day, and it could be in the near future, like I'll be like, fuck, I wish I did this with my dad or something like that. So like, or my mom, like how much do I know my mom? Like she's just like this nice lady, like, and like, I've seen like people die, like, so, obviously like a lot of people have had worse, but you just don't know. So like, I think that's important, and I want to like I want to highlight that for myself. Always, like, another thing is like always, you always have to have things on the horizon, like in terms of events, classes, meetings with people. I think like that's incredibly important. This is like a practical thing, but like it's something I think about. Like when I'm least happy is when I'm like not moving towards something, and even things that I've like just moved towards and they've just been fun and they didn't lead to anything like spectacular. Like I did an improv class with you and I thought that was fun, and like I have good memories from that, and I don't know what I took away from it. I'm sure there's a lot and I could think about it, but like it doesn't really matter like to flag every specific thing, but like just having that there and then doing it was fun. And like, so that's like one thing, but then, there's a ton of other stuff that I think I'm always trying to like, oh, I should do this. And if I don't, I get mad at myself or whatever. So I try to like, if I see something, and that's like how I got into that mentorship thing. Like you sign up for stuff and just commit yourself to things and try it. And I think like the last thing is like, yeah, like, I don't know. I've realized this in talking about it, the fact that it surprised you, I think, but I didn't talk enough about relationships. So I think that we can get into that, but like the most important relationship is with yourself, like waking up and doing things that matter to you, and not like it's important to me that I don't feel like I'm living for another person all the time. And I think that might change if you have a kid. If I have a kid, and I'm worried about that, but I'm aware of it, so I need to worry. Like that has to be in my mindset. But anyway, like I've made it clear that it's going to be important that I maintain things I care about my own schedule. Like I don't want to stop playing basketball if I could. I don't want to stop working out. And keeping my sanity is like important. So just like you said about employees, this applies to life. Like being happy in that will make you better. So focus on yourself. That's my last thing.
Yeah, I think that's something. Those are words to live by. No, I really believe so.
Yeah.
Or how does it feel to be a fast break legend, and what will your legacy be 10 years from now?
I'll be honest. I'm really not a legend, and I from while it mattered, when I first started, I thought I was highly regarded and all that. I think now. I think I bring a lot, but, to be, again, the masses don't see the little things that you do all the time. The people whoever asked that question is obviously a smart person. I don't know, in 10 years, as far as basketball-wise, I think the people that would play with me will be like, oh, that guy was, a great teammate. So, I think that's a good compliment.
If here's another question. If presented with the choice of seeing Hamilton or attending Mason's bris, what would you do?
I mean, listen, I've been to a bris before. There's really, the kid doesn't know, and the parents are occupied with family and commitments and bagels. Look, you gotta go Hamilton. It's a very rare experience. A bris is not rare. I guess Mason's only gonna have one, but he's not gonna know. And if anything, I'm protesting the whole thing anyway, so...
That's true. All right.
Good questions, though.
That's good.